Hello, we are back and I have this dipstick tube and I thought of a possible issue with just using the bolts instead of the bolts with studs like they're designed. This little bracket here typically goes onto the stud that's behind the special stud bolt with like a, so that's got an 8mm thread. I'm sorry, 10mm thread goes into the block, and this is an 8mm, so it's a smaller nut. My issue is I wonder if that little 3/8 of an inch or so that the thickness of the bolt head will matter. So I'm gonna pop that bell housing bolt loose and try to finagle this up in there and slide down over that bolt. I seem to recall that it's hard to do this, and I probably should have had this tube in before I put the transmission up in the truck. So with any luck, I won't have to pull it back out. Well, it's up in there. It wasn't near as hard as I figured it'd be. That bracket has a stop on it, so it sets the depth right on that rib of the transmission bell housing. All right, I've got wiring and cables and controls all hooked up. I've got the crossmember in place, and as you can see, that transmission crossmember bolt is loose. I don't recall ever having to, I forget. Brain fart. Easy coil or whatever it is where you tap it out and put new threads in. Gee, I don't remember. Put it in the comments. Well, anyways, there were just a few of those winds of coil in each hole, so I just grabbed a 10mm tap and some longer bolts and chased those threads out and got it so it'll just thread in without that whatever, I can't remember. So now it's time to tighten up the crossmember. The bolts that are through the frame and through the supports are just loose as well. I wanted to get everything in place before I tightened it. Man, the struggle is real. I couldn't keep a tool in my hand. I couldn't find the right tool. And I had rust raining down on me. So this ain't no Texas truck, that's for sure. Next, through that starter hole that I still don't know where it is, I have to install the torque converter bolts. I've already got one started, but before I tighten any of them, I'll get all of them in. So I just gotta crank over the engine a lot. I've worked many times trying to rotate the crank by the flywheel, but if I just take that skid plate off right there, I can get to the crank pulley and just turn that by hand with a big breaker bar, and it'll be a whole lot easier. One thing I noticed when I was rolling this over, it sounds like maybe one of my idler pulleys are shot. So when I fire this up, I'll be able to tell for sure.